Hello, Howard Baxton here again. Um, while I was recording this video, I forgot to talk about something. Well, maybe I ought to say it this way. Me and the producer didn't get see eye to eye on what we should include, so um, he won out, and I figure I better talk about this. But I left out one bit of interesting note in our .init note card. I forgot to mention we needed some plug-in commands so that we could actually do these things like add chain remove and chain config and chain add and get them to work. So here it is. In the init card, we need to add these three commands, the plugin commands, and I'll put them in the notes and we'll go from there. Now I think we can continue on with the rest of the video. Well, in the previous video, we looked at how to set up our cuffs and our chain point, which is the destination for the chains. The cuffs, we're going to use the cuffs for the sender prims and chain points here for our destination. Also, actually, we run from one cuff to another cuff in our actual applications, and that's what we're going to look at now. What is our actual application for cuffs, and how do we set that up? So first of all, I guess we need to go and look here at contents. As you'll see in here, just the normal nPose stuff, except for we have the primparams editor and the primparams storage script in contents. We're going to use this to give the new setters the opportunity to either hide these temp attached cuffs, so we'll actually wear them, but they won't see them, giving them the opportunity to wear a preferred set of cuffs from inventory and still be able to see chains. We also have the rings that you actually see over here on this one. These are going to be props, which will be resed. So, and on this board, these are not props. They're actually linked to the board, so they're part of the main build. So we're going to look at two different applications here and see how they work. Nothing new as far as nPose goes. All this neat stuff, normal scripts and what have you. Sat not sat handler, so we can do some things when a setter sits, maybe a timer. We need this for the timers. We have the prop plugin because we are going to be resing props, and we need that on this side as well as the prop side. So each one of these props have that prop plugin as well. That's about it. Everything else is just normal nPose. Our note cards are set up kind of interesting. These three scripts here, as you see the double colon in between the set and the cuffs, that effectively hides this submenu of cuffs, the hide button and the show button. So I'm actually hiding those in the menu, so they can't be, you can't find them in the menu. You won't be able to select them from menu. We can, however, issue a command in the note card to display those, which I'll show you in a second. I've got a note card set up for the submenu itself, and inside that we issue a menu prompt command and try to explain what we're doing there and why they're getting this menu. So that will be triggered when we sit. This is our default card. Okay, and so when we sit on sit in seat 1, this command, the link message -800, actually tells nPose to go to and display for this user in seat 1 the set : cuffs. So like I said, we can issue this and get to that submenu from our note card, otherwise not. I've added this die command for props in the default card, so if someone actually clicks on the default card menu, all the existing props will die, and we'll just move from there. Put up a standard meditation pose. It's pretty generic and not specific to sex or gender, I should say. And so that's how we started out. When we go to this command, we have two choices. We have either the hide or the show. These are to either hide with this alpha setting the resed cuffs, the cuffs we res and attach. We're either going to hide those or we're going to show them with this one. If we hide them, we're doing that because someone would like to attach cuffs from inventory and see those rather than the generic nPose cuffs that are in this thing. Okay, so that's it. So what happens is we go to the show and hide, and we actually do the two card set change and stuff. That's this one. Either one of these are going to send you to that set change and stuff. So whichever you choose, we're still going to go to this card. And the first line there is our animation, the exam line, the animation we're going to use here to display cuffs. This next line is kind of interesting. If you don't know, this is how we stop nPose from issuing a new menu. We send it out to a plugin menu or a scripted type menu that doesn't exist, and we don't have one in here named void. So nPose goes out and looks for void, can't find it, and just pleasantly dies, and we don't get the remenu. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a prop line for each one of the rings, the destination props that we're going to use, the ring LL, the ring LW, all four of these. We're going to res them at specific spots. And then when someone sits, if they haven't already set, we're going to res all of the cuffs. And if you notice, we use the nPose underscore cuff underscore, and then we forget all the rest and use just the asterisk, the star. So what this will do is it will res all props that begin with nPose underscore cuff underscore, all at the same point. We don't care. We're going to temp attach them in the next line anyway, so we don't care where they're at, just as long as it reses them all. And we're able to res all four of these cuffs with one command, which is awesome. It's cool. It's a lot faster, and nPose just goes along with it. On the next line, we're going to do this also at onset, so it'll do this one first and then this one, and it will send a message to those props that begin with nPose underscore cuff underscore. So that's all four of those. It's going to send this message out to all four of those to do a temp attach on the sitter in seat 1. Okay, so this all happens really quick. Instead of doing one at a time, we're doing all four, and every one of them goes out in parallel, and this just broadcasts to every one of them as well in parallel. Okay, so that happens pretty much all at once. Now this one, we're doing an on-sit again. We're going to delay it a little bit with a timer, 5 seconds, and then we're going to do a prop do and send this out to all props with group 1. And our rings are group 1, and our cuffs are also group 1. So this just broadcasts this out to all of group 1. And it's a command to do add chains. Okay, and this is a perfect time to explain what's going on here. What we've got is a pair a pair of IDs. So we're going to go out here in our cuffs and look for the R cuff ID, and that's going to be our source for the chain, and our destination is going to be the ring RW. Okay, so we're going out to, I'm assuming that's going to be the right wrist. I don't know why I have two left wrists. Oh, right wrist is here, sorry. That's an ankle and this is a wrist. And that's an ankle and this is a wrist. So right wrist is going to contain this R cuff. And we've got 4 rings to choose from, and that one's going to the ring for right wrist. So that would be this one when it rests. Okay. So these work in pairs, and you can just keep going with another pair. So the second pair would be the left cuff and the left wrist, and the right lower cuff and the right lower ring. Left lower cuff, left lower ring. And here, this is an interesting one. We're going to go out in our cuffs and we're going to find the right wrist, which will be our source prim. So that's going to be found in a cuff. And then we have another one, which is left wrist. That's going to be found in a cuff. So this chain is going to be drawn from one wrist to the other wrist. If you remember when we set these up, we had 2 of them. In the right cuff, we had an R cuff prim for an ID and a right wrist prim for an ID on another prim. So there's 2 prims in there, and we're going to take advantage of both of those by displaying this second one. Okay, so that kind of takes care of that and how this all works. And by the way, you can find more on this in the on the wiki. It tells you what this is all about and pretty much what I just said. Okay, this next line, what we're going to do is we're going to wait 7 seconds, and then we're going to issue the command to display a menu. In this case, set would be the root menu. So we're going to display the root menu to the sitter in seat 1 after this 7-second delay. The reason I did this is because if you do not have an experience key in use, the temp-attach is going to ask you permissions for each one of these cuffs to temp attach. Okay, and so if we just let this thing remenu instead of stopping it here and waiting 7 seconds, and 7 seconds may not be enough. Maybe we can change that to 10 or something. We'll give it a little more time. So the menu would cover up the temp attach. The temp attach always comes first, and then the menu comes back in and covers it up, and you can't see those. So this delay actually gives the sitter an opportunity to accept permissions for each one of those 4 before the menu comes back and covers them up. And we have an unsit command. So if you move from this pose or this note card, it will actually remove the chains. So this remove command is kind of interesting as well. Since up here we know we have a sender and a sender and a sender, so forth. Up here in the add chains, we need to have the sender listed and the receiver listed in a pair. In the remove chains, all we need to do is address the sender perims to turn those off. So once we turn them off in the sender perim, they don't have a destination to go to. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now, in this, I want to save it. Yeah, I want to save that 10 second. In this guy, we've got note cards to change the default, several different configs. I've got our restart chains, which actually will stop the chains and then restart them. And then I've got one that just stops the chain. But this one here in the default, change default, is an example of what happens in each one of those cards. First thing we do is remove chains, which we talked about how that works just a moment ago. And then we have a change config. Okay, and a sender, we can pick a single sender param to change all of these parameters with, or we can use the asterisk for all of them, and it will change all of the chains, their configuration. We're using texture, we're using size for the XY size, we're using gravity, we're using a color so we can tint the chains as we like, and we can control the life. The life is how long it takes to get from the sender to the destination. So we can set that life shorter or longer or what have you. If you set it longer, it actually adds some sag, something like this, to the chains. The other thing we can do is give it more gravity, and that will take a chain that typically goes straight, and from the center it will sag, giving you much like extra life. So both of those control that. The texture we've picked in this case is a rope texture, and we've tinted it, the color of the texture, the rope texture, pretty dark, so it's almost a black chain. And once we set our configuration up the way we like it for all of the ropes, then we do the chains add and just rerun them again. So we rerun them from the source to the destinations. And that's typical of all of these, except for this one here. We did a little something different. We set all these guys to the chains texture and set all this, but in the individuals, the right cuff, we're going to set the color a little bit different. It's going to be a green and a gravity of 6, so it'll be, actually we don't even need that gravity in there. We could take and delete that out. It doesn't matter because we've set it for all these chains anyway. The left cuff is going to be a combination of red and green, which is some sort of a yellow. The lower left cuff is going to be a combination of red and, well, this is red and blue. Our red and green, yeah, I was right. And this is going to be a combination of red and blue, which is what, purple or something. And this one's going to be black. Oh, sorry, it's going to be white. Red, green, or blue is white. Yeah, there you go. And so we've removed the chains again here first, then we do our config in the middle, and then we add them back and redraw the chains. So that one's interesting. The rest of them are simply those 3 lines and go. But we've got some kind of cool things we can play and tinker with the colors and textures and all of that, all within the nPose note cards. So let's see how this works. Okay, so first one I said, we're going to run this card, which is going to pull up our cuffs menu to give us the option of a show or hide, either one we pick. Once we've picked, we're going to go to the chains and stuff. Okay, so that would be this one here, where we res the rings, we res the cuffs, we temp attach the cuffs, and then we add the chains. You know, we got the remenu trick that we did here to just hold off the remenu for 10 seconds and then reissue it. And then if they change poses, like click the default, we remove the chains. Okay, and that should end it. So if I sit here, let's get rid of that. We don't need it for now. First thing you see is I've got this menu. There's my menu prompt that I talked about, trying to explain what's going on. It probably isn't well done. I can either show or hide, and I think in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and show them so you can see the cuffs. And it takes a second for things to get going. Boom, there you can see the cuffs are resed. And the auto temp attached because I'm using an experience key. You see all four of those changes, they drew pretty quickly. We've got one from here to there, well, from here to there, from here to there, and from here to there. And these, it's hard to see the cuff, but they're there, from here to there, and from here to there. And we got our menu back after 10 seconds, which is cool. Now we can go ahead and play with these. You can see the texture is a chain. The change default one actually literally changes that to a rope. And I think you can possibly see that that's a rope. Okay, and it's in all four, and we tinted it almost black. Let me go and zoom in on this and see. Yeah, you can kind of see it's a rope. So that's kind of cool. We can go to another configuration, which I set up just for demo purposes. That stops the chains and redraws them as nPose pink. Girls might like that, I guess. So there it is. I mean, we can actually control the chains and recolor them. This other configuration is kind of interesting. That's the one with all the other lines. We set everything to a base or a new default, and then we went through one chain at a time and set a green one, a pink one, a kind of a yellowish one, a purple one. It looks like it came out, and one that wasn't changed at all. I think the reason we're getting these weird colors, we don't get a yellow and a red and blue combination, which would be true purple, is because this texture already on here is influencing what's going on there as well. Configuration 2 is a white one. This is actually a white chain, so that you can actually do some tinting and get real results, and I could have possibly done that with those colored ones I was using, so you get real colors and you knew what you were doing. The restart is actually, I think we looked at that one. It's going to stop the chains and then just restart them. So that's nothing really exciting. You don't have to stop the chains, actually. You could just redraw the chains and they just restart over. You wouldn't see much of a difference with this one color. If you went with this one, yeah, if you didn't stop the chains and restart them, you might see some difference. But this one stops it and restarts it. This one basically just stops them. That was all it was there for. It's just a demo to show you. And a show default, which is gray chains. This is the default texture that is in the scripts. We can always get back to that. And as I noticed, we don't have that cuff submenu. You can't get to the show hide buttons from the menu. The only time you can get that is when you sit. So this is what it looks like with show hide. Now suppose somebody came along and wanted to use their own cuffs, whatever they are. I don't know. Maybe they're a girly or something. So they would choose hide. Now this thing is going to automatically attach the cuffs, but it's going to hide them once they're there. You see them go and boom, they're gone. But we still draw the chains. So the cuffs are actually still there, and we're drawing the chains to those. So now if I wanted to actually hide or show some cuffs, I think I got some in here that are different than the other ones. We could add all 4 of those cuffs, and you can see them. These are a rope cuff that were donated by a wonderful person so that we could use them and play with them. Okay, so if we went up here and changed the default, we actually have some ropes that kind of sorta are within the scope of these cuffs, so we can do things like that. And you still see the cuffs are there. So if I were to stand up, the chains go away, but I'm still wearing my cuffs from here. Actually, the cuffs go away too. So I can just right click and detach all 4 of those. There we go. So now what's the difference between this one and this one? This one here, you see that these rings are part of the build. And you see we don't have the rings in here because we don't need them as props. We do have the cuffs. This one's using the rope cuffs, actually. We've got the same prim editor, main, and storage in there. But something you didn't realize is since these chain points are attached to the prim, we only need 1 copy of this cuffs plug-in. So if we go look at these rings, we see there's nothing in contents. The only thing that's important to us is the ring RW, the ring LW. See, no scripts in the contents. So the script, we only needed 1, and that's in the root prim, along with the other scripts. And it should pretty much work identical other than this. Let's get rid of that menu because it's for the other board. We can show the cuffs. I don't know if you can see them. You can see them there, they all resed, same point. They all go on, all 4 corners, and we draw chains like we normally do. You might notice these are a little bit slower. I'm not exactly sure why. Well, one reason is these 3 cards are identical. Let's go look at this default. You'll see a difference. Okay. We have to send commands out to the props, and we also have to send the chain command out to the main build. Okay, so we've got actually 2 commands that have to be sent. Now technically, we're only drawing cuffs from senders. So, and they're all props. So technically we wouldn't have to do this one, but I wanted to make sure we do it anyway. Just so you see. So here we've got a chain config going out to the props and a chain config just going out to uh, uh, the main build. And as well, the add chains goes out to the props, and add chains is going to go out to also the main build. Now this one does need to know because it's going to go look for the cuff, and it also has to go out and find the destinations. So that one definitely has to go to both. This one definitely has to go to both because, well, if we were using chains that ran from, say, right ring to right wrist, whatever, to our cuff, then we need configuration out there. So this one as, you know, as a, I've lost the word I'm trying to find, just a standard, I guess. I'm sending it out to both, just in case we want to reverse those chains, and we can. We can just swap places with this one and this one, and the chain will reverse. It will come from the right wrist ring, and go to the right cuff prim in the right in our cuff prim in the right cuff. There, I said it. Okay, so we can reverse those easily, and so that's kind of why I put this here as a standard. Okay, so that's the difference. Now, if you'll notice when we do all of that, get rid of this. This is the same note card. It's going to use configuration of ropes. You see, these are a little bit slower than this one. These actually go out in series, mainly because we've got these chain points all in one prim. Over here, we were as the prop, we were broadcasting to all props at the same time. So each one of those props had a script that was working for it, even on the rings. So over here, where we've got the rings all here and only one script controlling them, that script has to, work with one script, one prop at a time, or one chain at a time. So that kind of slows things down. So, and you'll notice that these are just, you can actually see them go. There, that one finally came. And that one is actually there. It's just hard to see. Okay, and that should be a conclusion of what I've got going here. I will make one statement though. When we're hiding the cuffs and allowing someone to wear theirs, it's just giving them the illusion that they're using theirs, but they're actually, nPose is using whatever we resed for cuffs, not theirs. The reason this is done that way is because to pull that off and make those chains go from an nPose device to something it doesn't know exists device and still be secure and all of that becomes a real headache to set up for one, and a real headache for scripting it for another. And this is just as good. You get the illusion you're using your fancy cuffs, but the chains are actually connecting to the invisible cuff instead. So this is just a way to get around it. No one would like, probably 98% of the people would not be able to set those cuffs up in a build if we actually ran cuffs from the ring, or ran chains from these rings to their cuffs, if that makes sense. Alrighty, I'm gonna end this video now, if I can. And we'll see you next time.